playoffs. So we now have the amateur pro teams playing, and we have the pro teams playing. And we're going to be playing 16, 17, 18 games a year.
Hi. She's our friend.
No, I
don't know.
Oh,
if I'm
not here, I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to modify the agenda, or recommend modifying the agenda and add 6B.
A few years ago, when they found out that the Fiesta Bowl was doing everything humanly possible to provide anything else you wanted, football schools and they were considering going to the Fiesta Bowl.
No, you can. You don't need to.
Goes, naughty. And turn a blind eye to it.
It's that one we
Because they didn't have the guts to pull the section.
we talked about. We're trying to spend maintenance money for that grant writing
And
effort
what they found out was
in
I
2017.
might have been there, but I've lost it.
I think that your will.
Yeah, it's
Doing okay.
They were
Have you got any more moisture out there than we have? No, I'm telling I'm you, about tired
willingness
of
to
it.
come to the bowl game
we're hurting.
with
Seriously.
anything and everything
It's already
that
from
they
the West
wanted,
Slope, and it's now
including
coming this
cash
way.
sacks,
You're going to be as bad off as we were like
cars,
14,
you
15.
name it, they could
I
get it.
haven't had any either.
Go in the Fiesta Bowl is doing
Unreal. First week of
December,
December.
and they don't want to talk about
I know. I know.
I don't think we've had 4 inches of snow in the city. Even on the west north side.
Yeah, we really haven't.
You live up north, right?
I know that is Atlantis.
Yeah, we're not on Palmer Divide, but I'm nestled up against the southern edge of that mountain.
You think you've gotten 4 inches total? I mean, you got half now and 3/4. I don't think so. Oh, I know we have.
Homestead, Sound Right, Fox News, talking
Palmer Divide monument gets
me with Pittsburgh.
creates that whole weather system.
I think he was involved with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We either get one or two effects. It either comes over the southern edge of that Palmer Divide,
what's the name?
down by Bergen, and
I want to say
Wanstead,
Wanstead.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
down around Woodland and I-25.
I was listening to him before the
Or
OUTC
it dumps over and hits us and doesn't hit
Maybe it was afterward,
one of the two.
but he flat out said
We've had
the after
an inch or inch
Oklahoma
and a
and
half of
Clemson
snow.
not be in there, this is Southern Cal and
And
Ohio
vice
State.
versa.
There's no way in the world you can just transfer one of those teams that both teams are going to play off. Can't do it any other way.
On the other hand, Ohio State lost the game Wisconsin didn't. So why wouldn't Wisconsin?
Differences are caused by geological things.
One game elimination because of the championship.
He's the same
I
story.
mean, Ohio State
You
got beat. Wisconsin was
and me
undefeated.
the next day, and what he does
So
just
why Ohio State over
within
Wisconsin?
a couple of miles.
I got my working on my private pilot's license in college, so I took aviation weather, whole 2 semesters of weather. So
Every team plays.
sometimes I just want the weather guy to show me the weather map where the highs and lows are. Let me see where the highs and lows are, and I can
Because your
station
prediction
there
is
for
one thing, but show me the facts.
show me let me make my own decision.
Based on one loss.
All right, let's get this process. All right, let's get this show on the road, folks. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for taking your time out to be part of this illustrious process. So let me start off by reading the purpose statement. So the purpose statement of the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. The primary objective of the CAC is to ensure capital maintenance and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters during the September 2nd, 2004 and September 6, 2012 elections or accomplished with PPRTA funds. This committee reports directly to the Board of Directors. All right. First order of business, let me welcome Patty Acola from Manitou Springs to our illustrious group. So thank you for being part of this group. We look forward to working with you. So
you.
Yeah, we want to make sure we don't have any fist fights for our first meeting, so that's.
Full joy.
Okay, so call to order, we have a quorum. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, Reb is going to make an amendment, please.
I move the agenda be added on item 6B. The city engineering has put forth a request to us, and it will. I move that the agenda have an item B added.
6B.
Thank you. I can't count that. Add item 6B for a line item transfer that will be explained in detail by Mike. City engineering.
Yes. Any other additions or amendments to the agenda? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Joan? Cheryl? Second. Okay. Any public comments from anyone in the group that's not on the agenda? Seeing not anyone in the public have any public comments? Not seeing any, okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting as published in our packet?
So moved.
So moved.
I asked for one correction if it's necessary. The word bride is being substituted for bridge somewhere, and I looked at that several times because I just saw.
Where?
But they're just hang on a second.
She's already changed it.
So,
I changed it online.
okay, she's changed it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay, so it's been, all those in favor?
Aye.
Go back to the agenda. All those in favor of the agenda as modified, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, sorry, getting ahead of myself. Ms. Bev, financial reports.
Good afternoon. On the first page, you can see that in September, we received $8,252,000, which was under budget, the monthly budget, by $883,000. But we're still over year-to-date by $190,000. And I think you've probably read in the paper that because last year after the hailstorm, the receipts for last year were kind of artificially high. Now, hopefully, since we sort of used last year's totals, it won't be a problem for us for the total year by the year end. So hopefully we finish strong for the last October, November, and December.
Otherwise, the I-25 GAP project may not get much money.
Well, that'll be based on 2018 and 2019, so it won't be affected by this.
Yeah, you can definitely see a seasonal trend line in that this time of year. So,
Yeah, that's too bad. But so then, compared to last year's actual, though, we're still $4,184,000 ahead, and that's on page 2. This is for Patty's sake, but page 3 through 5 kind of regurgitates the budget in the first columns and then takes the actual year-to-date compared to budget. So that's just for your reading pleasure. And then the next pages are both the first 10-year capital projects, page 6 and 7, and then the second 10-year capital projects total project budget compared to actual to date. So like a running total compared to the actual project budget, which is a bit different than the annual budget and the annual expenses in the prior pages. So are there any questions?
any questions for Bev on the financial? Thank you, Bev.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 6, Colorado capital maintenance and public transportation contracts, Colorado Springs. Mr. Mike.
Good afternoon. Mike Chavez, City Engineering. We've got a pretty good list of contracts for your review today. We'll start out. The first 3 are actually pipelining projects that operations or maintenance operations has under various roadways. They bid these out. And the memos have the bid tabs of who submitted.
How large is CMP under item 1, down on Janitel and Executive Circle?
That is,
The reason I ask is
there's 41 by 30 elliptical pipe. So,
oh, it is?
yeah, so the memos have the description of the,
Okay.
roughly the pipe
I
sizes
missed
and
that.
stuff.
Okay, that's listed as maintenance. The next one's listed as maintenance. The third one is listed as capital and maintenance. It involves 3 different sizes of pipe. It's 2,800 lineal feet. Why are we putting it in if it hasn't collapsed? Or why are we doing it if you're not planning to build the road over it? And I guess what I'm getting into, is this a storm water issue?
Can somebody talk about Shelley Cole? More detail.
Coal plant operations and maintenance contracted programs. We do check the pipes. We are going to go in there and overlay that street this year. That pipe is in such a shape that we have to do something with it before we pave it so we don't lose our new asphalt mass.
So it is going to be overlaid?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions on the pipe ones? Next 4 items are supply contracts for maintenance operations for glass beads that go into the pavement markings, and those are not to exceed $200,000 contracts.
Just a quick question. Are you using that during the winter season? Are you?
The glass beads? No, it's when they stripe, but they're getting ready. Next paving season.
Mike, can I go back to 3? Why is it capital and maintenance?
Yes, so
Which?
we have, it's 800 plus thousand, their streets, operations are going to use their 412 allocation of their capital drainage companion projects that is in there.
Okay.
And that was put in there to help take care of pipes in the roads.
Companion drainage?
Yes, it's a capital line item that's in our list.
Okay.
All right, so then the next item we have is a construction contract for Kramer, North America, to replace the Academy Bridge over Cottonwood Creek. And that's being run as a construction manager, general contractor, CMGC project. So they were brought on board during the design phase to help us scope and price the bridge out. We negotiated a price for the work of $6.4 million at this time.
When does when do the parks money kick in on that?
It's part of the money now. If you look at the memo, there's some RTA Parks money in that 5.7, and then there's 700 of other parks money that they're kicking in.
Okay.
The item 9, the Dublin widening, that's actually, that 136 is a land purchases to buy the permanent easements for the project, some sidewalk easement, and we need from the Clay House Church, and also a pretty good chunk for a water quality pond, which we need to build as part of the project, because we need to, per our MS4 permit, we need to collect and do water quality treatment of this roadway drainage.
Okay, anybody have any questions, any of those? David?
On the glass beads, is that something that they did, they found like, what, 50-ton bags, or they did it, and they locked into a bid, or is it just?
I'm not sure, someone answer how.
Those huge, big white bags.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Corey Farkas, Operations and Maintenance. So those come in these enormous white bags that get lifted onto the paint truck along with the paint. And as the paint is sprayed out through the sprayers, it calculates the number of beads that need to go out, and it drops them with it so that it's on top of the paint.
So when they do this contract, are they bidding a certain price per bag? Is it per bushel, per whatever? And
There will be a unit price for it, and then we'll be able to order accordingly.
they already bid for it?
I haven't taken a look at that. I would have to take a look at that. So we've got contracts with all of our suppliers. So at this point, at the end of the year, it's when our science and marketing team does an inventory of what we used, and they go ahead and they make their order for next year. Well, it would have been done with an RFP at one point, but typically our contracts are going to be one-year contract with renewals.
Okay. That answer your question, Dave? Okay.
They're big bags.
What about number 10, Pikes Peak Greenway, Mike?
Yes, so that's a construction contract to extend the trail under Uinta.
Is that there at the bridge, over the creek there, that on what it kind of looked like, because the
Yes, and so we had an exhibit just where it's located.
yeah,
So
that's why I was
so
to
it's
make sure.
along-
So it's under that new bridge there, or it's not new.
But the new, yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because the trail does come up to the surface level there, and then go across the street and then back down.
Yeah, so they want to make the connection so
Okay.
people can stay off the road.
Yeah. They now have to go down Glen Avenue. I think you have to kind of wind around to get back over to it. Okay.
I have a question. Originally from Pikes Peak Greenway Trail, there was approximately $3 million, of which approximately $2 million has already been allocated, and another $1.5 million, there was $500,000 added. I'm going by recollection. $500,000 was renewed or added by the board, mayor from former mayor of Manitou Springs. How much was your total budget for the Pikes Peak Greenway project over the 10-year period of PPRTA 2?
I don't recall, I don't have that list. I know that there's been about $1 million that was kind of originally set, or I think maybe in the first year was put in there for the trail, and then we started looking at adding it for the downtown area work.
Rick's probably got a better. That happens to be one of the numbers I don't remember well. It's $2 million, or $2,011,000.
The board has approved a maximum of $3.5 million in concept. What's been board approved via budget, and I think prior years, Bev, is there any new Pikes Peak Greenway money in 2018 draft? I believe the answer is no, unless you know.
I can't
I don't either. That's my problem.
I'll wait for that answer.
I didn't bring my budget.
I got it at home.
Okay, I don't remember any, but the board has budgeted in prior years $2,021,021.
So, to max at 3.5 though.
Of the 3.5 concept cap.
Right.
So 3.5 was the limit that would go to the pedestrian bridge and all that.
Yeah, but you eliminated some whole years of funding for that, right?
I can't remember how we worked. I know that there, initially, I think we put in $1 million for the original Greenway stuff that Parks envisioned. And I think that's where we're funding this part out. So it's kind of separate from the $3.5 million. That's not been fully spent, but kind of been obligated.
That's my point. Where's this $750,000 supposed to come from?
It's in the Greenway. It's in that trail budget. Unfortunately, I don't have my spreadsheet that shows.
So I guess, Rev, your follow-up question would be, if this is coming out of the 2021, then is it going to substitute, and thus is the America the Beautiful Park Bridge then going to need that money rebudgeted in a later
Yeah,
year?
let me look and can I get back to you or to the board with more numbers?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we have the money in there for both projects, but let me verify and
Okay.
all that.
I want to buy it.
Dan, quick question.
Yes, sir.
On the Academy over Cottonwood Bridge project, you're got a contract amount totaling up, now totaled at $6.45 million. Is that covering the entire cost of that bridge, or is there still more money to be requested later on to finish the project?
We are not looking at request more money, but there is one element that we have not awarded. We're redesigning the creek under the bridge. We're going from grouted channel to drop structures. But we anticipate that, and Kramer will give us a number for that, which we'll have to award that. But we anticipate that even with that addition, we're still under the overall budget that we have of 10.2. There's like $1.3 million of park money, and the rest is RTA. So we will increase this contract, but we should have to allocate any additional funding.
Out of that 10.2, how much of that is PPRTA funds?
Well, Parks is thrown in 1.3.
1.4, 1.3,
1.4,
yeah. 650 and 700, something like that.
600 and
600,
700,000. So then the rest is PPRTA.
That answer your question, Gene?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, then the last item is just, we have several dozen contract renewals. They will be renewed under the conditions that they originally issued. So there's some not to exceeds, there's some just straight out contracts, some have renewals, and different limits. So whatever those were originally approved at, they will be reauthorized or renewed under those terms.
Go ahead.
All right. There's 127 contracts listed. Some say all departments, some say traffic, some say engineering, fleet, among others, bulk fuel. And also, why isn't it capital and maintenance? Because it isn't all, at least ways, I don't think, like, where is it, one of them?
Some of these
Materials.
are city/RTA. So the city will use them and pay with city funds, and RTA will, we'll use them with RTA funds. That's why they're mixed. Because a lot of these supply and on-call were geared to, and we included the RTA language so we could use them.
They come out of the maintenance portion of the PPRTA funds, not the capital. And it's listed just capital. First page of your sub thing.
Oh, just the general category? Oh, that was my oversight. I should have put capital and maintenance.
Okay.
Because they're used for both.
Okay, so it is both.
Yes.
I have a question. On the ones, it looks like there's only two that a begin date that go back to 2010. The rest of them are sometime during that. But are you going under the principle that we're going to, 5 years, or at what point are you going to recompete or retry to rebid these things? Remember
Yes, most of these should have, like, their 5-year initial and 4 renewals, typically.
Okay.
I'm not sure which is the older one.
First one, and the first one, and then there's one on the bottom of this back side of that page. Felsberg, Holt.
Oh.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike and the city on those projects?
One last one. On the list of the contracts for the 127, you've got a column over here that says all departments. Who is all departments?
Any city department, again, if these contracts are for city, we use for city funds or RTA, so if a department has a need, they can use them,
So
pay for it.
You have to, it's a vehicle of which anybody can use, and whatever department it is brings their funds to that vehicle.
Check and balance, and it is sitting down here at the
Yeah.
end of the room.
Yeah, they, I think we've seen that trend of trying to have a single vehicle for all people that want to use that. and then they only use the RTA funds, and they've been trying to simplify that. I think we've seen that over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
so.
I'm good.
Yeah. And Rick does a good job, I'm sure if PD send an invoice trying to pay for a police car with RTA funds, he'll flag that.
Nice transition into 6B.
Okay. Do we need a?
Oh,
gotta
yeah,
take
yeah.
action?
So, Tony?
I was just going to make a motion if we're ready. Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion. I would like to clarificate items 1 through 9 and 11 and recommend them for approval and make item 10 approved as a separate item, subject to further information about where the money's coming from.
So we have a motion to pull item number 10 out and vote on it separately with a condition of additional information, approved, waiting additional information.
So when we're voting right now, are we just voting on 1 through 9 and 11? Or are we voting on also the conditions for 10?
If you accept his amendment to that motion, we would have 2 votes, 1 through 9 and 11, and then 1 on 10.
Okay.
You accept his amendment?
Well, I didn't make a motion, so he didn't amend.
Oh.
He made the motion.
I made the
Oh,
motion
okay,
to
all
amend
right.
it. And
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Scott?
Yeah, I need to recuse myself.
Okay. So make a note that Scott is recusing himself on the vote for the city project. Okay, so any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll have 2 votes. The first vote will be on items 1 through 9 and 11. Any discussion on those? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then the second vote will be on item number 10, and it is a condition that they would approve it pending the additional information that the city's going to provide. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Cindy. I think you're going to say we need motions and seconds on each of these?
Well, we do, yes.
Oh.
But my question also is, so we're approving it, but just saying he has to provide the information? We're not looking at the information? Don't we want to see
it would
that
be-
it says something, or? I mean, I'm confused. What, the way your motion said is we're approving it, providing they provide information.
Yes, because there's no clear path where this money is coming
So
from.
what if the information doesn't answer that?
Then we will recommend to the board next week,
But you're approving it. You're approving it.
subject to the information being furnished.
But you're not specifying the information.
Yeah, you're saying furnish that information, but we're not
The-
saying
he-
what we need that.
It was
information.
referred to by reference to what Mike promised, finding out where the money's going to come from. In other words, he's asking for, in this particular contract, about $750,000, round numbers, okay? $750,000. There's no avenue. Rick suggested they may take it out of the $2.2 million that has already been approved and allocated and whatnot, and then at a later date, put it back from some other source. Basically, there's no source of this funding.
Wouldn't it be more clear to just withhold approval then, pending the information?
Yeah. I don't know, what's your time frame on this, Mike?
When I get back later, I can see,
Well, no, I don't mean that.
but,
To have this money, do you have to let a contract?
well, we have a contract ready to go on this, yes. And I think part of the answer is we are, the 3 million that's been kind of reserved for the pedestrian bridge, we are using that for design at this point, then whatever the remains of that 3.5 will go toward construction. They're a ways away from constructing, so there is money to cover this 3/4 right now.
So what does the 2018 budget line say? Does it have anything on the Greenway?
There's a carryover of $2,080,000, and I don't know for which project that's for, but it's a carryover.
Okay.
So it might be enough.
Yeah.
This, for that amount that they
Okay.
mentioned.
I'll verify, but as I recall, when we started adding money to that budget, there was an initial $1 million for the Greenway, which would be this type of thing. Then I think we added $2 million for the
No, we only went up to 2.2 million.
Yeah.
And an additional,
But
the original cap of 3 million, and then at a board meeting, they just arbitrarily decided, well, because it's such a hot topic button, they added a $500,000. That was done by the mayor, former mayor of Manitou.
But that was for the PED Bridge, not
Right.
for future Pikes
No,
Peak Greenway
that's right.
projects.
So it was allocated specifically, that $3.5 million total was specifically stated to be for the pedestrian bridge.
Yes,
This
but I don't think
time-
we allocated three. I think we said we would not request more than 3 million at the end of the day. But let me verify that, because like I said, I think there's $1 million for general greenway work.
As Bev indicated, the carryover figure for the draft 2018 is over $2 million. It's not necessarily earmarked for the America the Beautiful Park Bridge. Staff was assuming it was previously for the America the Beautiful Park Bridge, but I think you have the flexibility, and what the staff is requesting is to use $750,000 out of the $2 million for Uinta, which is not the America the Beautiful Park Bridge. So that then brings the $2 million previously that was assumed to be for the America the Beautiful Park Bridge is now $1.25 million, and will assumably in 2018, if there's excess revenue, well, it can't be, that goes to I-25. In future years, 2019, if they want to replace the $750,000 they're using for the Uinta back in for America the Beautiful Park, they'll have to do that in 2019.
Yeah, that's
So it's all it is, previous presentations were that all of that remaining $2 million would go to the America the Beautiful Park Bridge.
Right.
But it's not legally bound, and he's now saying he wants to use $750,000 of that for Pikes Peak Greenway other than the America the Beautiful Park Bridge. I think the CAC and the board have the flexibility to do that.
But we
Yeah.
have no clear understanding as to how the money will get replaced in 18 or 19. Just that it has to be somewhere.
Well, and the budget will have to balance, or Rick and Bev won't approve it.
Don't we?
So the question is do we approve this thinking that they will provide the information to the board? Reverend, I hear that, and that's satisfactory to us. Or do we put it off and wait until everybody sees it at one time? Does anybody, I don't personally, I don't see the issue here. They're going to reallocate some money out of their overall budget to do this. You went to bridge. If the PED bridge needs more money, they'll move it from somewhere else and put it back in there. I don't.
Can we just have a motion to approve?
Yeah, well, Rick made, clarified any question I had anyway, so.
Okay. I didn't, let me cover one thing first, Tony. I didn't get a motion to approve
1 through
the
9 and
bifurcated 1 through 9 and 11. Do I have a motion to approve that?
Motion to approve 1 through 9 and 11.
And a
Second.
And Tony seconds, and you've already voted. No, anybody want to change their vote? Okay, all right, okay.
And I'd like to make a motion to approve 10.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve 10.
With conditions?
No conditions.
Tom, you seconding?
I seconded.
Tom second. Okay. Any other further discussion? Do I hear all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. All right, thank you for your time and energy. 6B, you want to give us a lead in on this?
Yes, so I apologize that I walked this on, but what we have here, so I'll summarize. There's 2 railroad bridges over Nevada and Tejon south of downtown that are on the replacement list. They're A-list capital projects under RJ2. But we weren't looking at doing those, and it's only design money. It's about $3 million for design. We weren't looking at starting that till about 2020. But last year on April, Union Pacific contacted us and said that the Tejon Bridge is really bad, in which we agree, and that they were going to replace it fairly quick, and they were going to put it back as is as far as the width of the bridge and the height. And that is not something that we want. We want a better clearance. So we started talking with them, Aaron, with our bridge group, and basically what they said was, well, we can probably pay for the base bridge, and any improvements the city wants would be on our cost. We talked about the fact that we had future plans to replace them, or at least start designing replacement. So we met several times to kind of talk about, the logistics of that. We want to work with the railroad and do the two bridges together, because if they just replace the existing bridge as is, that kind of messes up any kind of construction sequencing to do both bridges properly. So they're willing to work with us on that. So they, at this point, kind of agreed to kind of slow up and see what we kind of come up with. So what that led us, the city, to do is we're trying to figure out where we're going to get some construction money, and there was a opportunity to go for an infra grant. But by the time we came to those conclusions, it was kind of close to the deadline. Our staff didn't have the time or really expertise to make that application. There's a lot of cost benefit and cost analysis that need to be evaluated and analyzed. So we decided to use the on-call program, and we hired HDR to do that work for us, because they do this quite a bit. They're very experienced in bridge work and in dealing with the railroad. So we got a task order for them for $32,000 to start work, and also to work on the grant analysis and application. We meaning city staff, Aaron and I, we kind of thought we'll pay it for it this way, and we proceeded. And HDR started working on the grant. They got through the partial analysis, and at a certain point, when they got to the cost-benefit portion, they realized that it wasn't going to score well, and we didn't think we'd be very successful with the grant. So we stopped work. We told them to hold up on it, because we didn't want to spend any more money to submit something that we didn't think would compete well. So they spent about $13,000 at that point, and then we started talking with Bev and Rick about, hey, how do we pay for this? And their preference was for us to line item transfer money into the project, so we could pay this bill. We actually have $1 million+ program for this project in 2018, but nothing in 17. But to pay that, we're doing a line item transfer request. And we want to do the $32,000, because there is still some more work that HDR will do or can do that. Basically, it's more analysis and more cost estimating to get a better handle on what this project is going to take to complete. We have to deal with both railroads, because UP owns it, but they leased it to the other one. Was it Burlington Northern? So that's going to be a very complicated process. Working on the railroad takes a lot of time and patience. Anyway, so the work that they have done and will do will give us a better scope of work, so that when we go to an RFP for the final design, I think that'll be a good work product that will be able to really nail this down well. So that's why we're requesting the full amount.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, so today's is just for that 32,000, just to kind of figure out what the analysis is, and figure out the rest of the money a little later.
Yes, we will. This is kind of a planning analysis that we're going to have them complete, and then based on that, we'll be able to put an RFP out for design work.
Okay, David? And then you, Brian.
Changing the bridge, what does the city want to do based on what they have?
Well, especially the Tejon one, we want it a little bit higher. It's only got 13 feet of clearance. 16 is desirable. PUC will only allow a minimum of 14, but 14 still might get hit by. There's some truck traffic, so we'd like it a little bit higher and wider. And that's the base that we're looking at. The problem is this has to be built while you keep the trains running. So so we're looking at, do you create a siding, or do you create a new bridge and move the track? Yeah, it's very yeah. So there's a lot of work to figure out what's the best way to approach it, and that's what we're doing right now.
Okay.
Are you gonna get rid of, is that the one that has the
Nevada's got the little one.
snack in the middle of the road?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it would probably be clear span. Again, that's a detail that when we get to design, we'll do a bridge selection study. But more than likely, we want to get that thing out of the middle of the bridge, or make it wide enough so that it, like a highway bridge, they have piers, but there's clear space to avoid it. So.
Just a quick question for clarification. You said that the total amount of work that was done for the grant process currently is $13,000.
Yes.
And because you've hired it out, rather than switching up and going back to having city take over, just keep HDR on, and that's what the balance is.
Not so much switch over, but they have the expertise to continue some of this analysis, kind of start, if not answering the questions that you were just posed, at least thinking of how do we answer those questions, so that when we put together an RFP for design, the scope will be clear, so that whoever bid, proposes on it has a really good idea of what they're going to need to address and tackle.
Okay, and originally HDR was chosen because of the time constraint and expertise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the Fillmore to Garden of the Gods, is that anywhere on the list of capital? I can't find.
It's
the one we just finished.
it is on the list of projects for 2017.
Which one is it?
Fillmore.
Centennial, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was looking for Garden and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, Centennial from Garden of the Gods to Fillmore. They just finished that whole project, so, yes, Real. Okay.
I move that we recommend approval of item 6B to the board.
Second.
And Tony? Okay. Any other discussion on item 6B? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, number 7, member governments and other reports. City Transit. Hi, Brian.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Brian Vituli, City of Colorado Springs, Mountain Metropolitan Transit, with your monthly transit report. For our fixed route services, we saw
Brian, is that?
it is, yeah. We saw a slight decrease of 2.6% for our fixed route services for October of this year as compared to October of 2016. For our ADA powered transit services, we saw a 23% increase over that same time period. And for the first time in many months for our van pool services, we saw almost a 27% increase on ridership. So that's good news. Project update. 2 months ago, I presented to you our 2018 Transit Service Improvement Plan. And at the time, the city's general fund budget was released. We had a slight increase in general fund money going toward transit of about $180,000. Part of that was for contract escalations for our operations contract, our ADA powered transit contract, and our maintenance contract. The $180,000 also covered the local match percentage for the hiring of a new mobility manager. Since we have the joint call center on property now, we're looking to hire a person to manage that and to manage the mobility management efforts for the region. So that's where the $180,000 was going. Everything that I discussed in October new service-wise for 2018 was going to be funded with that $1.4 million of PPRTA revenues above budget. And you'll see those highlighted on page 3. They're classified into 3 categories. Off-peak service improvements, so that's increasing Saturday frequency from 60 minutes to 30 minutes on routes 3 and Route 1. Adding Saturday service to Route 32, which serves the Security Widefield area, and they currently have no weekend service. Adding 60-minute Sunday service to both routes 10 and Route 19. And since these are off-peak service improvements, they don't require the addition of more vehicles because we have excess vehicles on the weekends. We won't have to buy new vehicles. We'll be able to implement this on April 29th. The weekday frequency increases. At the time, back in October, we said that we could only do a frequency improvement from 30 minutes to 15 minutes on one route, either Route 1 or Route 27. And the new services that we were proposing were to add 2 new routes on Union Boulevard, one route going from the downtown area on Boulder Street up to Academy Boulevard, and then another route going from Academy and Union up Union to the new Memorial North Hospital and Children's Hospital. Both those weekday frequency increases and the 2 new routes would require new vehicles, which we have on order, but they won't be delivered until next summer. So we'll be implementing those next fall, so September 30th, I believe. So last month, just about this time last month, during a City Council budget markup session, there was discussion with the results of the election of allocating another $300,000 to the Transit Services Division for more service. So that will enable us to do both of those 15-minute service upgrades. So we're proposing to do 15-minute service on Route 1 and Route 27.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
That's a quick question. Will adding it to both of them require yet another vehicle?
Yes, but we're able to add on to that order, so we'll be covered vehicle-wise. Yep. So we'll be finalizing our proposal that will go out later this month. We'll have public meetings in January for the off-peak service improvements. As I mentioned, we'll be implementing that at the end of April. And then in next July, we'll have another public process for the fall service changes, and we'll implement those at the end of September. So it's good news, and this $300,000 plus the $180,000 already allocated is really bumping up our city general fund allocation for transit. So it's great news.
Got a question,
Any questions? Sure.
In consideration of adding those new routes going up Union to Memorial North, have you guys looked at extending the route that goes up Powers to Tuck Boulevard and extending it up to Penrose St. Francis and making a loop there?
Not at this time. We are, with the discussions that we've been having with Memorial North, also Pikes Peak Community College with their Rampart campus that's up north. There's also discussions that are happening with Penrose St. Francis. Initially, they weren't very interested in having transit service. Now there may be an opportunity to do that, but we would probably do it with another route going from Academy and Austin Bluffs, where Morning Sun is. We have several routes that connect in that area. We would probably run another route out of that area because Route 25 has 15-minute service now, so there'd be good connectivity for a new route going to Penrose St. Francis. Route 23, out on the Powers Tuck Boulevard or corridor, is it's not that high-performing of a route, and it's a very long route, and it's a route that we'll be watching in the coming years, perhaps for more marketing or some type of restructuring, but we think we can serve Penrose St. Francis a little bit better with another route that goes from Academy and Austin Bluffs, if that works out that way.
And then one other question on, in considering going up to the North Pikes Peak campus, would that potentially run up Voyager to Interquest and potentially connect that industrial corridor over there along Voyager and where Lockheed and all Ball and all those places are? Thoughts yet?
Yeah, we do have a route in mind. We'd probably go from the Voyager Parkway Transfer Center, again, where we have a couple routes that end there. I can't quite remember the routing to get to Rampart, the Rampart campus, but it would likely, especially if PPCC is going to be partnering and helping to subsidize that, it will probably be a fairly direct service. So, we did have service up in that area that you were talking about, and it just was not a
Yeah, there's just so much growth
success,
up there,
yeah.
Interquest and Voyager now that
Right.
just trying to
Yeah,
capitalize on it.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Sure.
Any other questions from Brian? Rick?
Was it Route 23 that goes up Powers?
Yes.
Now, as I understand it, aren't they deadheading on Powers all the way to the north and then coming back?
No, well, we travel, Powers is there are no sidewalks, no
Right.
ped crossings, so we pretty much stay off of Powers. We're on Tut primarily going north and south, yes. yeah.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought you were deadheading north on Powers and then coming back to Hut.
Right, no,
But
no.
you are- okay.
Yeah, there's a very small segment that we do run on Powers to go west, but we're primarily on Tut, yeah.
You wanted to finish it. Were you done?
I was, yes. Mhm.
Any other questions for Brian on transit? Thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Next. Number 7B, declaring 2018-2019 due budget year resolution. Mr. Rick?
This is a request to declare 2018-2019 as the 2 years to dedicate revenues in excess of the budget for the I-25 GAP project. The ballot measure mentioned $10 million, but did not mention which budget years, and the IGA, the new IGA that's making the rounds between the 5-member governments, mentions $5 million or up to $5 million a year for 2 years, but does not mention which 2 years. So I'm recommending that we formalize this to the CAC and the board and ask for a motion to declare that the budget years of 2018-2019 are the applicable budget years for dedicating the capital revenues in excess of budget for the CDOT I-20 for assisting CDOT financially with I-25 GAP.
Tom?
For a motion?
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing. This kind of came up at the board meeting, as this hadn't been codified or solidified in terms of the specifics. And that was a heartburn that I had during this whole process, is that we are stuck with managing the specifics, and the politicians worked all the big stuff, but we hadn't worked out the specifics on how this was going to work. And so this was the first step in that process, was defining the years of which that would work. So.
I don't think you want to use 2017.
No.
Rick, have you run this by Mark or Merv?
I believe so, yeah, at least Merv. At least Merv.
The only reason I'm saying that, if we don't have any, I personally don't have any objection to it in 2018 and 2019, and I kind of think it's important. But in the IGAs, was it spelled out at all? And I think all of them have been approved now.
Yeah, well, the two legal documents are the ballot and the IGA, and the ballot says 10 million, so that's one constraint, up to 10 million, and then the IGAs say 5 million a year per year for up to 5 million per year for 2 years. So the remaining feature is which 2 years. You can pick some other years, but I think all the discussion that wasn't formalized was 2018 to 2019. You need to pick 2 years, and it's up to $5 million a year for a total of up to $10 million. So the only remaining fact is which 2 years do you want to pick?
So if they want to make this a toll road, can we just push this off forever to whatever 2 years we want?
Yeah, I wanna kinda come back
2025
to
and
that.
2026?
Does this not require something other than just a recommendation from us to the board?
Yeah, that's all.
Some sort of a legal, MOU? MOU or IGA, anything legally in terms of?
So what was the first part of your question?
First part of the question, what is the recommendation from us? I don't see it as being,
Just to define.
Just a motion, but are you saying should this be more than a motion?
well, even if it's an approved motion, it doesn't seem like it's legally binding.
No, it's a recommendation.
We need to attach it
As
to
an-
an IGA or just make it a policy, or what would we do with it?
I'm sorry, I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
It strikes me like an amendment to our budget for 2018. So we're amending the budget to include this particular line item.
Good. I like that. It's sort of a condition for 2018, 2019.
Yeah. Can we add that, can we add that to our recommendation on the bullet to the ballot, the thing to the?
Bev, could this be some sort of a footnote in the 2018 budget? In other words, would it be possible to yet add a sentence next week at the public hearing and the approval of the resolutions for the 2018 budget to mention the up to $5 million of capital revenue excess goes to the CDIG gap project?
It could be done, no problem. I mean, one of the things is it could be that the years weren't mentioned because if you put it in the ballot measure, you'd have to go back to the voters. And if this is approved through this method, then that'll be the plan. But if it didn't work out.
Well, by just tying it to the budget, you could always amend the budget and take it out and move it to another year, and that's least procedural wise. But at least you have a provision in the line item to account for up to or something, a footnote, or as Rick said. And that way, if someone says, well, where did this money come from, what year, at least we've got a document where it's documented. This could stand on its own if the board approves it, designating the years. But if the construction project slips, it could always be changed because the ballot measure didn't have specific dates on it. So, I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah. The lack of specific dates was probably prudent because the whole process was evolving as it was going forward.
Sure.
It was an if-then proposition.
I absolutely agree.
How do you include a line on it in a budget?
Without a set value?
Yeah.
I think well, we'll let Bev, the expert on that, but my thought would be it's a footnote on the bottom line, and it's just a asterisk with a footnote kind of thing that the potential total budget, the approved budget items could increase by this amount of money for this project if additional revenues are available.
It won't really happen until 2019 because it's carryover.
You got to carry over 18.
So kind of just depends on what this tells me to do in the future. Because it won't change 2018 budget.
It'll just affect the 18 carryover into 19.
It affects 2019 and where the carryover goes.
So we need to start codifying it in some way, I guess, is my thought process. Make sense?
Bev, are you okay with a sentence or two typed somewhere on one of the pages of the budget stating this?
I'm fine with it, it's just that it doesn't really affect the 2018 budget. So.
But it would affect,
If somebody wants it in there, I'll put it.
it may not affect the budget, but it would affect 2018 revenue, right?
No.
Carryover?
Carry over into 2019, which is when I put it in the budget.
Right.
where it goes.
Yeah, what's left over from 2018 that would go to 2019 goes to this instead.
Yeah, but it's still 2018 revenue.
Is this the distinction between the authorization and the appropriation?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But the carryover is still revenue from 2018, right?
Yes.
So you're basically just stating that up to the first 5 million in excess revenue in 2018 is earmarked for this project.
That's right. Revenue above.
Revenue above budget.
Right.
The Times reporter, the Gazette reporter doesn't get that.
So is everybody comfortable with a sentence or two typed somewhere in the 2018 budget? So, as opposed just to a simple motion that this motion needs to be revised to state adding a footnote or a mention or, pick your
Somebody
word.
want to make that?
I make a motion that we designate 2018, 2019 as the 2 years with the footnote in the budget stating that.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Rick? Abstain? Joan? Okay. Rick, is CDOT still planning on being at the board meeting next Wednesday?
Abstain.
Yes, and Karen Rowe is here.
Okay, Karen? Hi.
I don't remember any of this crap.
I was just going. Karen's going to mention that. I'll let her go with it. We'll go from there and see where we're going here.
Do you want to take care of 7C with Mike and then turn it over to Karen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to swap 7C and 7D?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Rowe, R-O-W-E, the Colorado Department of Transportation Region 2 Director, and with me is
Rob Fry with CDOT, Planning Environmental Manager for Region 2.
Oh, good.
so we're kind of tag teaming here, so you get to know both of our faces, and I'm trying to build that relationship between RTA and CDOT, especially with this initiative passing. I haven't been to a CAC meeting or a board meeting before with RTA, and so I think it's important for you guys to be able to ask us questions directly and us to work with you a little bit more. I know we have a three-party IGA with the Cimarron project with the city, I think, and so there have been other efforts we're coordinating. Mark Andrews, also the North Program Engineer, he couldn't make it today. So I'm kind of here to answer your questions and then just tell you just a few key things. So the state Senate passed the Senate Bill 267 last year, which gave $1.8 billion for transportation projects over the next 4 years, upfront capital funds without increasing taxes. However, CDOT has to give $50 million per year for the next 24 years to pay back for those projects. And 10% has to go to transit, and 25% of those projects needs to go to rural counties. And so right now, $250 million of that 267 money is being designated for the I-25 GAP project in hopes that we get a federal infra grant. So for the project. We have public meeting tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. at the Mark Dabbling El Paso County facility. That's 3755 Mark Dabbling. So there's more on that. There's more on the express lane alternative. Again, what happens is with express lanes, we don't know whether it pays for capital cost or not. It's about travel reliability. It's a policy that CDOT Transportation Commission has put in place that any expansion on our existing system will look at toll lanes or express lanes, actually. It doesn't necessarily need to be toll. So how they've been implemented in Denver has been various. Some have allowed HOV, meaning 3+ people in there for free, and some have not. Some have helped pay for capital construction, and some have not. And so it's just, it varies. So there's a team out there right now calling it tolling and revenue study going on to see what is a feasible rate for those express lanes that would be added. And again, those lanes would be, if you need to make it to the hospital, if you need to make it to a doctor's appointment, if you need to make it to the airport, you would use those for travel reliability. Now, it does ease congestion on the general purpose lanes, the free lanes, and so it does help all lanes. And we would widen shoulders, we would make it a safer highway. But this isn't very common down here yet, but it is something that the state CDOT is looking at for all projects where we add capacity. And it is common in the Denver area and north of Denver to Fort Collins and Greeley. So that'll be talked about at the public meeting. But again, we don't count on those express lanes paying for the capital costs. We won't know until the tolling and revenue study is further along whether that's viable. If it can pay, if we do think the tolling revenue could generate funds, CDOT takes out a loan against the anticipated tolling revenue and puts it towards the initial construction costs. But again, that probably won't be known until next summer, what that might come out to be. So we're working on that, and right now we're planning on having $350 million of upfront construction costs. This is very much in line with I-25 north of Denver. The locals came to the table with $25 million. CDOT came to the table with some funds, and there's express lanes on that project. So that's the new model, is everyone's got to pitch in order for us to get a project completed. So that's the main points I wanted to talk about. We are the STAC, the State Transportation Advisory Committee, and we'll be working through the PPACG planning group on projects that are looking to be put forth on the proposed ballot measure. It's being organized by a private entity and coordinated with CDOT as to if they put a sales tax increase on the ballot for November 2018, what list of projects would CDOT, working with our planning partners, think are the best capital improvement projects to have. And so that process is being going through. And the reason why I mention that is because this ballot initiative would be for the next 20 years, similar to the one that was passed in 1997 that expired in 2017, the seventh pot, where we got Cosmics and we got some projects on Powers. So this would be the next round of that. But we still have more needs in this area than we do have money to move forward with on those projects. So we'll be working with PPACG. But again, the funding that we would even generate with the sales tax increase still wouldn't meet all our transportation needs. So we need to work with RTA to help coordinate on future efforts and projects that you guys might have on your ballots. And whether CDOT does it or PPACG does that, I'm not sure. But I'll make sure to keep you updated on what projects we're looking at on those ballots. And so I know you just talked about the GAP project. John Hall is our project director on that. He'll be coordinating on an IGA, probably another three-party IGA between El Paso County and the RTA for that $10 million commitment for the construction costs.
I've got a question for Karen, for you guys. The new model on toll roads, I remember how quickly from Lincoln Avenue south to Castle Pines and how quickly from Castle Rock all the way into Denver filled up when they added those lanes. I mean, a matter of weeks, and all of a sudden the 6 lanes were full again.
Yeah.
I don't get the toll, while the toll road may be the policy, the issue on that section of road is capacity. And while it may relieve some of the capacity issues in the general purpose lanes, as they're referred to, it doesn't solve the problem, because only a small percentage of those people are going to use that toll lane. And so it really doesn't solve the capacity and the safety issues of the other 2 lanes that are there. So I'm not getting, and then the new commissioner said that it would be a toll lane and it would go to maintenance. I mean, it was an article in the paper the other day. So I've seen how quickly this corridor all the way to Denver, I used to drive all the way to 52nd and Broadway every day, so I know how quickly that filled in. And I see the same thing happening in this 17-mile stretch, and just why we're going to limit the capacity availability by putting a toll on it.
It's a little
You're not
counter.
yelling
It's
at
a
me.
little. I know, and you're not yelling. It is a good conversation to have, and I would say that 2 years ago, I'm not where I am now because I've been more educated and shown data that supports it otherwise. So when you talk about what was T-Rex filling up, that's exactly why we want these to be express lanes. Because if you have to make it to downtown on time, there's no way for you to do that. You are stuck in traffic. You do not have an alternative way to get there on time. So express lanes are not exclusively about funding generation. It's about travel reliability. So if we had the express lanes there, you would be able to have that option. It's about travel choices. So what they have found, though, is that these express lanes on US 36, that's exactly what they did from I-25 to Boulder. They went from a 2-lane highway to a 2-lane general purpose highway with express lanes. That has worked great for safety and for capacity. It has improved the capacity and it's improved the safety of the corridor. They did that for the I-70 peak period shoulder lanes, which is in the eastbound direction on I-70. This is where you use the shoulder as a toll, but it's only on peak weekends. And they've shown that it significantly reduces the traffic jams in the general purpose lanes.
Point. When they all come together.
It's significant, yeah, and to where those end. But even through the corridor, they do have data. They have numbers that show the accidents reduce on all of those, as well as the capacity improves on all of them. So again, that's why it is. If we just add capacity, you're going to be in another traffic jam. And they're saying that this model, even though it doesn't intuitively make sense, has worked in other areas. And that's is where we do think it's the best safety, and it is the best travel reliability and best for the travelers. And it is a policy direction.
Tom and then Brian.
Aaron, when you talk about fixing this problem, is there going to be better technology involved? Are there going to be better? When you talk about fixing this issue we've got up here, leveraging technology, better signage, better notifications for alternate routes and things like that, is that part of this planning process, or are we just fixing those 3 lanes in each direction?
I would say that's a combined effort that's already ongoing at CDOT. So we are trying to improve travel communication and travel notifications through other technology and other methods and with other facilities. So, for example, Region 2 is building a combined traffic operations center with State Patrol down in Pueblo, where we'll have people down there that will control the variable message signs, look at the cameras, and be in the same facility as the State Patrol dispatch, meaning that State Patrol gets a call saying there's an accident, we got a lane closed, or the interstate's closed. They'll be in the same room as those people, and they'll be able to put up variable message signs in a very timely, strategic manner, and then clear those accidents to make it more reliable. So we're always looking at more technology and more things to do better job at that in general, and we're coordinating with the Colorado Springs Traffic Operations Center. So I think they would probably be looking at technology that would give us more real-time information about accidents and the traffic flow on the interstate, on the highway there, that would combine with those other efforts going on.
Well, I know you and I have also talked briefly about the idea of reopening the rest area up there as a cell phone area. Is anything moving on that at all?
I don't know yet. I don't know if that's in the scope of this particular project at this time. So we are moving forward with what's called CMGC, where we get we select a contractor in advance to work with our design group. Our goal is to get at least one phase of the construction started by next November, and then continue with that contractor to strategically start building that project in pieces that will be best for the traveling public and get it done in a as fast as we can. So our goal is to, if we were able to get this ballot measure passed or get all the funding sources aligned, again, we're waiting for that federal grant, whether it comes through or not. But
And
we'll
I assume the
we'll look at
350
strategically
number is
rolling
probably
out.
for an asphalt road?
I don't know right now. So I can get John Hall to come back, but we're still in early phases and looking at what does that $350 million mean. So I don't have that answer right now.
Brian had his hand up first.
Just a couple of things. First of all, originally, and I understand that this all came together very quickly over the summer. This was originally, when it was presented to me, a capacity increase and with the possibility of an additional toll road. Now, from what I'm gathering, we're looking at whether we are going to have a one-lane increase in each direction and whether or not that one lane is going to be a toll road or not. The issue I see arising with that is the taxpayers are already being asked to pay for this. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All of this money, all of the money, not just the money the RTA is giving, but all of the money is taxpayer money.
Yep.
As a taxpayer personally, I kind of find it offensive of being asked to pay twice and then being asked to pay every single time I want to use the road just to get somewhere. And considering the fact that this is a highly used north-south connecting countries, so it's international, but it's also a national interstate. Combining those ideas, I think you're going to find I'm not the only person who feels that way. And I'm very much along the same lines of Jim as seeing a capacity increase to help deal with the amount of traffic. Now, it's not just regular commuters, but we're also talking about trucks and our this is a major part of our transportation system. So the restriction, I would be in favor of having, hey, if you want another lane, so if you want to make it 4 lanes, and then having that a toll for folks who have that need, that's one thing. I think that's how I was originally understanding the idea as it was presented. If we're just talking about the addition of 1 lane and talking about making that a toll, I would be highly opposed to that, and I think you'd probably find a lot of resistance down here. I don't know. We think a little bit differently than Denver does.
Right.
So
No, I get the resistance. I didn't get it. Like I said, I would like to do a workshop with you with maybe some of our HPTE staff to have you understand. The federal dollars don't get us where we want as much as we used to. So again, federal gas tax hasn't been raised since 1993. I think state was 1991 last, right? The cost of asphalt has 5 times, right? So like you had talked about, it's an interstate. Why aren't the feds paying for it? Well, they are. We still get federal funds. Right. But the interstate north of Denver also is an interstate, gets federal funds. $25 million of that $280 million project was local funds. It is an express lane that will be tolled. It does, have other funding in it. We did get a little bit of a federal grant, but it mainly has state funds in it. We are just in a funding crunch. State funds haven't been raised, federal tax funds haven't got raised. Now, what I would say is that there is a PEL, Planning Environmental Linkage Study, that looks at what horizon, 25-year, 40-year?
The planning, so 25-year.
So it looks at 25-year need, what's needed in 25 years. That is still continuing. And that's the big picture. That's the, like you say, maybe we need 3 lanes of capacity and express lanes. So what we're doing, though, is we're saying, yeah, but something's got to be done now. So the alternative being moved forward right now that will be at the public meeting is an express lane plus 2 general purpose lanes. That is the alternative on the table for the short term. Now, they will continue on with the PEL study, and they will look at what does the ultimate fix look like. There's still that Front Range Rail, commission. There's other things being considered. This is kind of what's called the early action. And I know it's a new concept to this area. I feel like I'm paying twice. It's a choice for the traveler. You can pay the toll and make sure you get there on time. If you choose not to pay the toll as a general taxpayer, those general purpose lanes will flow better than they did before. The traffic will be better, the capacity will be better. And again, those tolls will fluctuate depending on how many travelers are on the road.
Do we know that for a fact?
That has been historically what we've seen in all the toll roads that we've installed. Yes. Okay. And that's where I'd say a workshop would be better, because they have the data, they have the numbers, they have the locations, they have the illustrations to show that.
Okay, Jean was first, then Cheryl, then Joan, Cindy, and then Lawrence.
2 quick questions. First off, is the tolled lane, how is it separated from the general purpose lanes, or is it?
So a lot of this is at the public meeting. I'm happy to answer some of this here, but I would recommend you come to the public meeting. Right now, I think it's a 4-foot painted separation, so it's not a barrier.
So
it's
similar
just
to what they do with the bike lanes downtown here? They just
yeah, somewhat. The model is if you go from, who has been to Fort Collins or Greeley recently?
Yeah.
It's very similar to that. That's the model.
That doesn't go all the way to Fort Collins.
It doesn't right now. So there's a federal law that says if you, so the TC policy went into place, and I should have this, but I don't have it exactly, like 2014 or 2013, and it said any added capacity from this point forward will look at express lanes as an alternative. So there were some projects already in place or already going that were exempt from that. The new project it's an express lane from downtown to a certain point, and then there's 3 lanes that are not express lanes because the policy was put in place after that. And then from that point forward, there will be express lanes for any new projects that are coming up. And so there's a big design build there, about $280 million, that has express lanes that will be going to Fort Collins from where that 3-lane ends. But they have an ultimate configuration, too, that they don't have enough money for right now also, that has to do with 4 lanes.
My second question is that one of the local TV stations reported last week that there was an online survey that CDOT was performing, dealing with express lanes, toll lanes
Yes.
on the I-25 corridor. I have yet to find that survey anywhere. Where is it?
I don't have that answer. I will try and get that answer. We'll talk about it if you come to the public meeting. I'll see also if I can follow up. There is a consultant out there who is working on behalf of CDOT, or what I would say is HPTE, High Performance Transportation Enterprise, is who actually funds or operates our express lanes. CDOT's not allowed to collect money, so it's called HPTE, and they're the ones that I would bring down here and do a workshop with you to help understand where this comes from and how it works. They've hired this consultant to do that, and I don't know whether it's open to everybody or if they're sending postcards to particular people, and Scott's nodding his head. So I don't understand.
Yeah.
So it's not open to everyone, yeah. So it's not skewed, like you said. If there's a whole bunch of people oppose it, they would go on and do the survey, whereas Cheryl, I didn't recognize you. Hi, Cheryl. I'm like, gosh, she looks familiar. Apologize. So again, they send it out to a group of people. They're really looking for particular income brackets, and they ask those questions, and they have to get a certain number of participants in order to call that survey valid. And so there's that process to go through for the
So
tolling
it's not an
survey.
open survey, it's you have to be selected.
Yes.
That's what it sounds like, and I'll get that answer for sure, but that sounds right.
Okay.
Would it be too much to ask that you provide that to Rick and Rick get it out to the committee?
Okay.
Is that all right with you, Rick? Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so we want to move along. This is a small portion of the overall RTA deal, but I want to make sure you all get your opportunity to identify it. So Cheryl, you're next.
I'd like to go back to the preceding agenda.
I'm not sure that one's on. It's got a flashing red light.
Mine has a green light.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to go back to the budget.
It's not
The
working.
battery's probably low.
Just give her Tom's or somebody's.
She's good.
Yeah, there's a battery indicator flashing, we can see it. No.
Underneath, Cheryl, you don't see it.
Backside.
It's not on the backside of any of the others.
There you go.
All righty then. I'd like to go back to the budget question. We recommended the budget years be 2018 and 2019 with the overflow, so it'd go into 2020. But I understood the ballot to be construction money. And so, again, it's a combo question to both of you. If the PEL is not done by the end of 2018 and you can't start construction because you haven't gotten the final either CADX, EA, or EIS for that particular 17-mile stretch, then would you recommend that we revisit our motion to designate 2018 to 2019 and 2019 to 20, or?
No, I wouldn't recommend that, but I can give a little bit of clarification between the PEL, which is what we started off with this project with, was a PEL because we didn't have any identified funding. So that was to look at a corridor-wide plan. As Karen mentioned, this is the first action item we're looking at implementing. So we have actually put the PEL on pause. It's not federally required to do a PEL before you do construction. What is federally required is the NEPA process, the National Environmental Policy Act. So that's part of what the meeting tomorrow is for, is to kick off that NEPA process. And so we are actually starting that NEPA process right now. The schedule for that NEPA process is to hopefully have a draft document ready for public comment in March.
Whoa.
With the signed FONSI. Yes, it's very aggressive. With a FONSI, finding of no significant impact.
Oh, you're predetermining.
May. No, not yet. It's a schedule. And then go into construction if we have the funding
And you have
at
the
the end of
clearance.
next year. Yes, the FONSI will be that clearance. So that's
I
what
know
we're
a
hoping to get.
FONSI would clear it, but I mean, you still have to go through the federal process, and you have the draft, which then has to be a public meeting, and then you have to send it to FHWA. And I
Correct.
hear you're really streamlining this, but what if what you're finding in your environmental, your NEPA process, is that you're going to need an EIS?
So we have been working with Federal Highways on identifying the appropriate category. There's been a lot of progress lately in what can be moved forward with a categorical exclusion, an EA, or an EIS. There was even some preliminary discussion that maybe this would fit into a CADX if we push the limits, decide not to do that because of some of the controversies with express lanes, and to get the public input on that. But from the environmental side of things, there's not a lot of identified impacts. So we feel confident that an environmental assessment is the right category, and we are implementing a template EA, environmental assessment process, which is streamlines that as well and makes it easier for the public to read and respond to. So we're taking advantage of all those things to meet this aggressive schedule.
Okay. So your recommendation is you're still going to be covered for 2018 and 2019, even though you're starting construction, hopefully, optimistically, in November of 2018?
But I'd like to clarify, I think, Bev, jump in here if I'm wrong. We're just designating those years to collect the revenue above budget. It doesn't have to be spent in those years. It can be spent in any of the remaining years.
Okay.
So we're just reserving the money during that period and kind of committing it to the project, and then when the project's ready, it'll be obligated to the project.
I see. Thank you.
And just, again, I didn't go over all that because I'm just simplifying things, but we have gotten much better at streamlining things. And so I think this is a project where it is a high priority. FHWA is on board, and we are going fast. And everyone's on board to get that done quickly and agreed upon. So we will get a phase of the project construction started in November 2018. Whether that's just bridges or whether that's, we just don't know what that is. But we're trying to say, hey, we'll get a construction project out in November 2018. It'll probably come in packages. So there'll probably be different phases of construction coming out in different parts of the year that will work together.
Okay, thank you. Joan, you were next. Oh, Rick.
I have to concur with some of Brian's comments. One of the big issues for me right now is that when these issues were talked about prior to the election for the county money and the PPRTA excess of budget money, I think that if we were to go and poll the residents that voted on these two items and now say it looks like it's going to be a toll, would you still have voted for it? I think it was in the minds of the voters and the way that it was presented that these were going to be additional lanes to get us all up to Denver. I feel personally, and maybe this is a strong term, but I feel kind of like a bait and switch. And you're going to survey a certain economic group of people to determine, and yet you're not putting a survey to the general public. And I find that to be a bit disturbing. Yes, we do things differently in El Paso County, and we are a conservative county. But that does not mean by any stretch of the imagination that we're somehow backward or dull or not with it, because we are very much. I just find the talk of the toll lanes and looking that looks like it's going to be is not in the best interest of the citizens of this county.
Okay. Lawrence, you were next.
This is just sort of a technical question. If they do put in the toll lanes between Colorado Springs and Castle Rock, you would have to use one of those toll readers. You put the money on it and you can go so far. Will those toll readers work, for example, on the segment of I-25 north of Denver? Will they work on, will
Yes.
the one unit work in all the places
Yes.
that you're doing now?
Yeah, it works now with C470, which is in the CDOT-owned facility and the CDOT facility. So yeah, the High Performance Transportation Enterprise oversees all those, and you would just need one device. So that would be simple. I understand the perceptions here, and I recognize them. I would like to offer and see if we can coordinate an HPTE workshop to at least have you understand what has been done around the state, and this is consistent with the business practices around the rest of the state and the benefit to it. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that, if we can get you more informed, maybe that will help a little bit.
Well, as I understand, too, the section that they're getting ready to start in Denver, west of, or east of I-25 on I-70, will also entail express.
Yeah, it'll have express lanes and not have HOV option. And in that case, the tolling revenue came back so high that it did help fund a large portion of the construction upfront cost. So CDOT took out a loan based on those estimated toll revenues.
Okay.
Okay. Tony, you were next. Oh, Rick, you got.
Karen, can you share a few words on the way stations?
I don't have anything on the way station. So again, the details of the project has not been all worked out yet. So that's the port of entries is what you're talking about. And I don't know any details on that yet. I don't think the details have been worked out yet.
Tony?
Yeah. I want to echo what Joan said about, we're not a bunch of backwards people down here. You said a number of times that you wish we understood that this is the way things happen now. I think we're all fairly sophisticated in this room. We understand how tolls work. Many of us have lived in other parts of the country where that's been the norm for decades, let alone just a few years, what it's been in Colorado. That doesn't mean that we don't understand it, and it doesn't mean that we like it because it exists elsewhere. So I would recommend for your meeting tomorrow evening, I can't make it, try not to come off as condescending.
Okay.
Because
I appreciate
really
that because I
sounds-
don't mean to be like that. I just,
Right.
I know for me,
I
I was where you were. It took me a while to get on
The other
board.
thing you said is this has been the policy since 2013, 2014, something
Yeah,
like that.
I need to find that out.
This problem predates that by about 20 years. So telling us that, well, now this is the policy, doesn't make us feel any better because we've been screaming about this for a very long time. And if CDOT had done their job when they were supposed to, this wouldn't be an issue. So that's another one that really has me going. I agree this is a bait and switch. Commissioner Waller, who was one of the primary advocates of us passing these taxes, I know he is very against the idea of making this a toll lane, and we all relied on him pretty heavily on his conversations with CDOT that this was not the way it was going to go. So I hope we can find another way.
Okay, and again, I apologize. I didn't mean that.
Okay. Rick?
I just, real quick, you're going to start construction hopefully in November of 18. So Commissioner Waller kind of committed to the fact that means that we can expect construction at Monument Hill.
He kind of make that call.
And though you had started, you said you were putting money and you had started the south end.
I don't know if that decision's been made yet. I don't know. I haven't heard that from Commissioner Waller.
All right, David?
On toll roads, Colorado's had toll roads. Questions I have are, where is the money going to go for the toll?
Okay.
Number one, because we had a toll road from Denver to Boulder. And that toll money went to pay for that road. And as soon as that road was paid for, the toll boost and everything went away. So, with we call it a bait and switch, but it seems like the toll was talked briefly before the election, and then all of a sudden it went hush. And all of a sudden now it's like, ow. And if the toll was going to be mentioned before it, then more than likely I would have rather seen seed money be labeled as, if we're going to seed this money with PPRTA, or seed it with PPRTA money, then if you make it a toll road, you pay us back. But now we're too late. We're too far into it. So I just would like to know where the toll money is going to go.
Okay, and again, if HPTE's here, they can just answer a lot of questions or show you what's been done or how it's worked out in other parts of the state. But I do know from my limited education on the express lanes, the money has to be used in the corridor that's collected. So as to how that is done, and I would need HPT group to show. There's different models being used in different parts of Colorado. So the new policy does not talk about putting in a roads to pay for the construction of the road. It talks about putting in these express lanes in order to rely on travel reliability, and that the money that is collected will be used for that corridor. So if the pavement needs to be reconstructed in the future, it would go to that. For C470 west of I-25, they're estimating it could pay back the loan that's used for the initial construction. But it's unique to every toll road used. So there will be express lanes on I-70 Central. US 36 has express lanes. I-70 has peak period shoulder lanes, which are like express lanes for peak period time. So they could at least educate you on those models that Colorado has used, but the current policy does not say once the road is paid for, the tolls go away. It's used for travel reliability and for traveler's choice.
So if
So it's a just different idea.
road, then that means we shouldn't hear from CDOT to come and say we need PPRTA money to repave the toll road, right?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I apologize. I'm not all up on this, but I'm learning.
Okay, Rev, you want to comment, Jennifer, on something she just said?
First of all, Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer, I'd like to thank CDOT. I mean, I think whether it's toll road or not, the acceleration that this project has gone through, and to get to a decision document, a draft one in March, and having a contractor on board, it's going to be amazing. And you know, we'll talk about tolls, but I think what y'all need to understand is that we went from 10 years to 2. That is unprecedented. So I know that there's a lot of concern over the tolls, and I share that concern. But these folks also live down here in Springs, are going to be using that. Karen lives here in Springs, so it's not like she's coming from Denver and saying, you know, here's what we're going to do. She's part of this community as well. So I just want to thank CDOT. What we're doing is unprecedented. The coordination has been amazing. I'm up at meetings in Castle Rock and Denver almost every Friday in regards to this project, and what these folks are doing is just simply amazing. So, and then second of all, I would urge you to take Karen's offer up. We have, myself, Commissioner Waller, and other stakeholders have listened to the HTPE. I thought I knew a lot about tolling. I found out I knew about that much, and I think that it would be a great opportunity to understand a little bit more about that. So I would encourage you and urge you to take her up on her offer. But I just want to thank these folks. There's a lot of hard work going on this project, and whether it's tolled or not, it's going to be important to this community. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, Rev's got one comment, and we're going to knock it off out of courtesy to Corey and the other folks that have got presentations. This is important, and it's the first time we're hearing some of this, but it's a minor part of what we're doing in terms of the RTA. So I want everybody's things, but I would encourage you to support Karen's thing. Try to go to that meeting tomorrow night if you can. There also will probably be some discussion at the board meeting next Wednesday. You may hear some different answers to different questions. So if you want to come to that next week, that might give you some additional opportunity for discussion, or at least to hear the discussion. But Rev, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. I'd like to thank Karen and her compadre for being here. I regret that you all took aim at her. I commend her, and Jennifer's already said it, so I'm not going to repeat it very quickly. But I saw the beginning of the interstate system on the East Coast over 70 years ago, or very close to 70 years ago. And what they've done is remarkable as a team. You may have some issues that you need to take up, but not with these people. They are not politicians. They happen to work for the politicians. Unfortunately, their hands are tied. So kudos to you. I really appreciate it. Just don't leave me like I did on 81 coming south, where the road was wide open, but it wasn't open. And it cost me $117 in 1960. You're not supposed to speed, travel without lights at midnight, no matter how bright it is. And if it's New Year's Eve, the justice of the peace can be mean. So thank them. Really, thank you very much.
Karen, Rick has a comment.
Are you confirmed for
just wasn't sure what time I was on the agenda. The board starts at 2. Okay. I'm coming from Denver, so that's where I have to look at.
There won't be any traffic that time of day.
All right, thank you, Karen. Thank you, guys, and for that information. Really appreciate it. Let's move on, please. Let's move on, please, to 7C, which is the city's request for revised board policy number 12. If he's not finished, would you move on? I got a question.
We are asking
Oh, no,
that
I don't
the
know.
Academy of Cotton Creek be added to the exemption or to policy 12 where we have the higher change order limits due to the size and complexity of the project.
Oh, no, okay, sorry. Anyway, so we're asking that the Academy over Cottonwood Creek Bridge project be added to the list for policy 12, where that policy gives larger dollar projects higher change order limits so that we can move quickly, and then we just report those.
You remember, everybody, for Patty's information, there's a limit on the dollar value of change orders on a percent of the project. And for larger projects, they come in and ask for a waiver to be able to have a higher threshold of change orders, but they still report them to us. But otherwise, they're reporting twice as much sometimes, so. Any question?
So this isn't a policy change we're looking
No,
at. It's just a request under that policy.
Policy to add the Academy.
And when that policy contains all of the projects that have been added to it, so that if there's any question back, so it provides a historical reference
So
as
it
well.
changes it in that
Yep.
sense.
They did it for Woodman Road.
Pikes Peak was just added a month or
Pikes
two.
Peak was just added a month or so ago. Any questions on this? We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Mike. Change orders.
So, Mike Chavez again. Are there any questions on our log report this month?
Joan, do you have a question?
No, do we need to move approval of this?
No, it's information only.
Information? Okay, fine, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Corey, 2C. Sorry for the delay, bud.
All right. Well, now that you're all warmed up. All right. Corey Farkas, City Public Works. All right. So I was asked to come in and give, just like last year, an update. Is this on? An update of 2C. But I wanted to go ahead and take it a little further, give an update again of what we did this year, year 2 of 2C, and as well PPRTA and our operations as a whole, so that you get kind of a full picture of what all of these programs are actually doing together. So, no, it's just a PowerPoint informational. Okay. So the first few slides are directly off of the PowerPoint that we give the 2C committee. We've got a quarterly meeting where we update the 2C committee on all of our progress, financials, everything from stem to stern. So I kind of wanted to give you a view of a couple of those slides. Our 2C anticipated expenditures and revenue basically throughout the year. So on the left side here, and again, these slides are from our third quarter. We just had it this past week, our third quarter meeting. We don't get fourth quarter financials until obviously early next year. So in our February 2C meeting is when we'll be able to do a full year wrap up on the financials. Obviously, we can report on work on the ground. But this is our anticipated expenditures revenue. Everything to the left here are actuals all the way up through September. And everything you see to the right are projected at this point in time. What you see in the red are our expenditures. What you see in the green is our monthly revenue. And what you see in the blue is our net balance. So through the winter months when we're not doing a lot of work, absolutely no paving and just a little bit of concrete, we're building up the bank account. And then once we get into the summer months and we start spending that back down, obviously in December is when everybody invoices. So the majority of our expenditures are going out in December. Yes, Rev, is there a question?
I got a quick question. Are those quarterly meetings open to the public?
Absolutely.
And Corey, and is the same reason for a spike in September just because that's when the invoices came in, or is there a reason that there's so much happening in September?
Yeah, essentially, we start paving up here in these early, I guess, late spring, early summer months. So there's a lag from once they do the work on the ground to when they actually invoice us. And considering we had a really low July and August because of record rainfall, they had a lot of time on their hands just to go ahead and invoice us. So, all right. Again, this is somewhat of a regurgitation of some of that information, but this is 16 versus 17 on our revenue side. So you can see for 17, which is in the blue, we have been exceeding, with the exception of the month of September. And I think Ms. Bev kind of talked about that just earlier. We had an artificial spike with the hailstorm and everything. So, but right now we're on track to exceed our $50 million appropriation that we get every year with the revenues that we've been bringing in thus far this year. Which is great news. Those will go in the account, and we'll be able to add streets at the end of 2C with those dollars. So, and then expenditures. You can see here. This shows that we were actually doing less in 17 than in 16 through these 2 months, July and August. Again, because of the record rain, July actually, and our weather is taken at the airport. In July, we had 8 dry days at the airport. We were doing a lot of work, concrete work, and paving up north at that point in time. So, of those 8 dry days we had in July, we actually had less of those for the work that we were doing because those were taken at the airport, and the work we were doing was up north. So, we literally didn't work much in July. This year, which, again, as we move through this, keep that in mind because we completed more than we did in year 2 than we did in year 1. We'll get to that in just a minute. But we had a lot of Mother Nature to deal with through our biggest months, some of our biggest months, to get the work on the ground. And we still brought in more work on time and under budget. So we had a great year again. Maintenance of effort. So this is, again, through third quarter. We've got a maintenance of effort with 2C of just shy of $2.7 million that we need to do through the general fund. So as of third quarter, we're at 1.6, just over 1.6. We've got another 1.5, which is our CIP paving, that has not been accounted for yet, which will come in the fourth quarter. So right now we're projecting to exceed that roughly 2.7 million maintenance of effort. We should be coming in around 3.1 million in our maintenance of effort. Okay, public outreach. Wanted to go through these really quick. Maybe. Maybe not quick. There we go.
Quick is a relative term.
I'm telling you, this doesn't like me. All right, we'll skip over that one. So that's our cone zone map. This is on the city website, and it is a map that is updated by permit use. So CSU, any kind of contract, anybody doing work in the right-of-way who's pulling a traffic permit, those permits are uploaded into the cone zone map and mapped out with information. It's an interactive map to where you can find the street that's highlighted, click on it, and it'll tell you what project it is, who it is, all of the pertinent information, that there's northbound lane closures. All of that information will be on there so that hopefully you can kind of navigate all of this work that's happening within the city, because there is a lot of it between.
It's a cool map.
Yeah, between us and CSU and CDOT and private work and everything going on, we wanted to try to help the citizens out. Taking that a step further, we partnered with the Waze application. Anybody that has a smartphone can download the Waze application. It's a pretty cool app. It'll actually get to learn your routes, like from work to your house, and it'll ask you, it'll learn what time you leave work and go to your house at night, and it'll ask you as you're getting into your car, are you going home? And if the answer is yes, it'll say, oh, by the way, there's a construction project and X road is closed. You might want to take this route. And it can actually reroute you to help, and again, navigate the city. The Waze application consumes the same information that the Cone Zone map does. So again, that's something that we're trying to always help out the citizens of Colorado Springs to navigate all this work that's going on.
Waze is affiliated with Google, are they not?
That I do not know. So 2C URL, that's just our 2C website. It's, again, up and running. It's got current updates on it. We're updating that thing constantly with all the changes that we have. So anybody can go to that. I did want to show you guys this map. Hopefully this one comes up. It's thinking, it's thinking.
I think we need an internet service upgrade.
All right.
Ask the director.
So this is our 2017 programs map. This only has our maintenance and our large maintenance programs on it at this point in time. Anybody can go onto this. This is on the city's website. And it also has transit projects, stormwater projects, engineering projects on it. These are, as you can see on the layer list over there, just my projects at the moment. So what you're looking at is all of the work, or a good majority of the large programs, I should say. It's not all of the work. We've done more. That has happened in Colorado Springs this year. You're looking at 2C here with the green and red. That's the green is pre-overlay concrete and the red is the paving portion of it. But again, this is an interactive map, so if you wanted to zoom in on something and you wanted to click on a particular roadway, this was a 2017 PPRTA funded mechanized patching street. The street was on Union from Academy to Dublin. Status is complete at this time. So you can, again, go ahead and click on anything. This is the 2017 crack seal program, so we crack sealed that particular street. And we're just trying to give the citizens of Colorado Springs a visual view of all of this work that we're doing that I'm about to give you a whole bunch of statistics for. Again, these are all on the city's website. Anybody can get to them. So let's get to some of those stats. Our in-house operations, and one thing to remember, we've talked about this before, because of 2C taking on the majority of the pre-overlay concrete and paving, we've been able to take our PPRTA dollars and truly dedicate those to preventative maintenance and increase a lot of our programs, again, touching more streets with maintenance than we ever have within the city. So this is our in-house operations, PPRTA resurfacing, our dig-out operations, 2,074 tons, crack seal. This is one that we're really proud of. We've crack sealed with our in-house operations year-to-date 589, just shy of 590 lane miles. When I took over the division in late 13, moving into 14, our crack seal program was 59 lane miles. This is the most inexpensive way for us to keep our good streets good, right? Is with crack seal. So we're really trying to concentrate on these numbers. Potholes thus far year to date. This is as of Tuesday of this week. We have filled 83,308 potholes this year. Thanks to the CAC, we did receive 4 new pothole trucks. We had a discussion on how, hey, we could really get out there and do a lot more work if our trucks worked. And as you can see by these numbers, we had a record last year of about 60. I think we were at like 62 or 63,000 potholes last year filled, and we barely got there. We crushed that record this year again with having trucks that are actually up and running and out there. And then again, maintenance paving. This is our very strategic paving plan where we go in a street. We don't take it from curb to curb. We go in and we'll do a lane width, very strategic surgical lane widths where the worst potholes might be. So the one thing to remember is while we're filling that many potholes, it's hard for us to really kind of quantify how many potholes we're alleviating with the maintenance paving operation. Yes.
And I appreciate you touching on that, because there's a particular bad section of road that people had thought really it hadn't been touched in 20 years. Didn't know.
Sure.
And the questions I've been getting are, why did they only do this? And why didn't they do it all the way? And that's part of the strategic. The question I would have is, what about the rest of the road that's decaying around this new?
And that's a great question. This particular program is designed to give relief, right? So we take care of our bad roads and our pothole issues by taking care of the issue, right? And that's through paving, right? Taking care of the symptom isn't going to get us too terribly far. This is taking care of a symptom. So there are roads. It really is. It's a high quality patch, okay, and it will get us a number of years, not like a true mill and overlay will. But there's some roads, that section of Delmonico. Last year we had a pothole truck parked there. I think they had a tent set on the side of the road because they couldn't leave that stretch of road. We'll get our maintenance paving crew in there. They'll set a mill down. They'll mill a lane width in each direction for a couple hundred feet just to alleviate the really bad problem. Come in, they'll put a paver on it because again, it's a paver. It's not a hand patch, which is noticeable difference. And they'll pave that through and they'll make it a really nice road until 2C, PPRTA, or CIP paving can get there and take care of the issue. And it might be next year, it might be a couple years down the road, but it'll get us a few years.
It saved a bunch of work up on Delmonico. Like you said,
Yep.
those guys were up there almost every week.
Yep. So, PPRTA markings, when you look at our crosswalks and legends, just under 110,000 square feet year to date. Peyton Long Line, 1,165 miles, and our sign maintenance and install, just shy of 10,000 signs that we were able to maintain and install throughout the city. Okay, so our PPRTA contracted programs, when you look at our contracted dig out, it's a bit lower, 1,365 tons of asphalt used. This is a contracted program that we have that goes in front of our chip seal. Prior to chip sealing a road, we crack seal it and we'll do dig outs to kind of increase the structural integrity of the roadway before we chip it. That way we're not having massive failures on our chip seals. And it really gets a lot of bang for the buck because by doing dig outs and crack seal with a chip seal over top of it, we're getting a lot more years out of our chip seal, which is about a quarter of the price of a full mill and overlay. Probably even less than that when you include concrete. Our contracted crack seal, 391 lane miles on that one. Our chip seal, again, last year was a big year for us in chip seal, bigger than any of the years that we've done previous to me getting here. In the first few years I was here, we did just over 90 lane miles last year. So as you can see, 123.24 lane miles. Again, we were able to increase that program. And then we did do some paving under PPRTA this year, about 17 lane miles. So that added to our lane miles that you'll see in another slide here. I rolled them all up. PPRTA concrete, you can see the numbers here. We were able to do some really good work. These pedestrian ramps are something that we're really trying to key in on, and the cross pans that we're really trying to key in on. And again, you'll see some roll up numbers here pretty soon. But the pedestrian ramps are something that are very important. We're dealing a lot with the ADA community now and trying to get our city up to ADA standards and compliant across the board.
Corey?
Yes.
Can I have a comment? I clarify this if you're wrong. We saw some relatively new ped ramps, the red ones with the lines across them.
Yep.
That were done not too long ago and met standards, but the road was never touched. And now you go back and touch the road, you've got to put in the new standard with the little dipples. Am I correct?
Yes, the truncated domes, exactly. So the federal government does not consider a mill and overlay a maintenance function. They consider it a street alteration. Anytime you alter a street, it automatically generates the need for new ADA ped ramps. So on all of our 2C mill and overlay streets, we must come in and bring all of the ADA ped ramps up to current specifications.
Even though they were current a year ago or 2 years ago.
If it's a red ramp, it wasn't a year or two ago.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying, you know, the ones with the heart, with the lines in them like this, that slope, they were red.
It's longer. Engineering put those in a number of years ago. I don't know exactly what the number is, but
I think the point was is they're still functional.
they are still functional. And you know, I wince every time I have to pull one out. Yeah.
It's all our fault. You vote for those idiots.
Okay, all right.
All right, so contracted programs, these are our 2C and CIP programs. So with 2C paving this year, we were able to pave 247 lane miles of roadway. We put down over 189,000 tons of asphalt with that. We're quickly, again, after next year, will be year 3 of 2C, we will be approaching what we were able to pave in the first 10 years of PPRTA with 2C. Again, what that allows us to do with these PPRTA dollars, as you can see up here, is vastly increase our preventative maintenance, which is what we need to do for long-term health of our infrastructure. CIP paving, we were able to add 8.16 lane miles year to date. We're actually still out there doing some paving. We've got, thankfully, although I am ready for some snow, we've got 50-degree weather for the next 2 weeks, which will allow us to complete that. We actually got in and we're doing some experimental paving in a neighborhood called Soaring Eagles that's got some massive wide cracks, and we're going to be able to pave the entire neighborhood here between this year and next year. To try to see if our, I'm not sure what all of those neighborhoods, when you say fairly new, late 90s, early 2000s, that entire eastern corridor of town is where we're fighting the wide cracks the most. And again, we can have a several-hour discussion on the perfect storm that I think is causing it. But again, soil conditions, the paving specification that was allowed at the time, the paving mix design that was allowed at the time, it all made this perfect storm, and we're dealing with it.
No snow for you.
Yes, there's going to be snow for us there. There's no doubt.
What is your temperature range for placing asphalt?
Great question. Great question. It depends on if it's a modified asphalt. If it's a modified asphalt, it's typically 60 degrees. Non-modified asphalt, you can go down to 50 degrees. If you're using a warm mix asphalt with warm mix technologies, even if it's modified, our 6428 modified polymer modified asphalt, we can go down to 40 degrees and rising and place asphalt.
Okay, so you've got a 40, 50, 60 degree. Now, different question. Cost difference per ton.
Same.
So, never mind. I'm just thinking of federal highway projects where you sat out there with your damn thermometer and said, your truck sits. Now we'll test the temperature of the mix.
Yeah, we really look at, and it depends on, when we work with our paving companies, when they batch warm mix, it's batched differently, so they need to be prepared for it. So typically what we did this year is around the early September 1 time frame, we started having conversations with our paving companies and said, okay, let's start making the transition to warm mix moving forward. That way, if we get Mother Nature that comes in and tries to pull one over. So,
A quick question that
yes.
your comment, Rib, made me think of. You're talking about air temperature for mixtures. The ground temperature is probably just as important with the proper setting up of the asphalt when it's laid as air temperature does. How cold can the ground be, and how do you measure it?
The same, and so if we have a 40 degree ambient temperature, our ground temperatures need to be 40 degrees, and we have inspectors that are out there with thermometers, infrared thermometers that are reading the ground temps.
Okay.
Okay, so 2C concrete. Oh, was there?
I'm just curious, with the massive amount of paving and concrete and everything that's going on, how close are we to maxing out the capabilities of our local contractors
Oh.
and asphalt?
How much time do you have? So our capabilities as far as supply go are not being maxed out at all. Our biggest issue right now is the human resource. There are not enough people around to get all of this work done. We've got concrete contractors that are fighting for finishers. The wage for a finisher for concrete has risen dramatically over the last 2 years. So there's a lot of issue with that and a lot of coordination that has to be had because of that issue. When we talk about doing as much paving as we're doing, our two contractors, Schmidt and Martin, they're bringing in mills from other parts of the state and even some from out of state to get a lot of this milling done because just in the localized area here, there's not enough. Okay, so again, you can see the concrete numbers there for the sidewalk, over 323,000 square feet, over 162,000 lineal feet. This, again, is the big one for me when you look at how many pedestrian ramps we've been able to improve for our ADA community this year. Combine that with last year, we were just under 1,000 combined last year. We've blown that one up this year with all of our programs, and continue to move forward. So some gee whiz totals. Total lane miles paved this year between 2C, PPRTA, and CIP. We were able to get just under 273 lane miles paved in 2017. When you have all of that paving plus the dig out numbers added to it, we've placed over 235,000 tons of asphalt in 2017, and that's not counting our pothole trucks and some smaller programs like that. This is a huge one. Between our contracted crack seal and our in-house crack seal, we're just shy of 1,000 lane miles maintained this year in 2017, and we've crested over 1,200 pedestrian ramps that have either been retrofitted or built new. This is something I reported on last year. It's just kind of a neat program that we started. So our in-house operations, even though we don't pave curb to curb, and we're very strategic in what we're able to do on our maintenance, we do generate some millings from those programs. So we also sweep the city and have sweepings, which is considered not a hazardous material, but a profiled waste, and is very expensive to send to a landfill. So we've been able to get rid of just over 10,000 yards year to date of millings. Of debris. And we've basically traded that for just over 11,000 yards of millings to the landfill in a barter program. So they basically allow us to, and again, if we didn't get rid of the millings in this fashion, we'd also have to pay to get rid of those because we have nowhere to put them. So basically, we got rid of the debris and the millings, and that's year-to-date savings so far this year is $234,000 to the city in this barter program that we have.
Is that yards or tons of millings and debris? Is it measured in yards or?
I'm sorry, it should be tons.
Okay. Sorry. Well, I'm trying to figure out how you could estimate that close.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tons year to date.
Scott, are any of the millings able to be recycled into the new pavement?
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. Our regional specification has a wrap content in it that we allow. So our contractors, but you got to remember, the contractors, both Schmidt and Martin, are generating their own millings that from this that are actually our millings that we have nowhere to put and get rid of. So we tell them they're your responsibility to get rid of. They put that right back into the mix.
That big yard down on Fountain, is Fountain that big milling, the big asphalt production plant down there?
Off of Fountain?
Hancock, that's way south, the one down by the jail or down that way.
Oh, they've got mountains of millings down there.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're just, it's all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So again, it's something I put together this year just to kind of show what we've been able to do. So you've got 2015, 2016 was the first year of 2C, 2017 currently second year. You've got your potholes filled over here. So in 2015, we filled 58,000 potholes, but we had over 8,400 pothole requests that came in from the citizens, right? So they'll report a pothole, and while the crews are out there, they'll try to fill what they can. So 8,400 requests. We had 546 damage claims for tires, rims, windshields, whatever, due to potholes that came into the city in 2015. In year one of 2C in 2016, when we were able to increase all of our PPRTA preventative maintenance and start getting a lot of paving done, we actually filled 62,000 potholes, but our requests started going down. And as well, our damage claims to the city also started going down. And then when you see year two, where we really started increasing and things started taking hold, we filled more potholes. I'll never say that the potholes aren't out there, because the potholes are out there, but they're not on the arterial and collector roadways that people drive to school, to work, to shop, that people are hitting on a daily basis. They might, those potholes that we're filling are more in neighborhoods and areas like that. So we're still filling the potholes, but the pothole requests, again, have dropped dramatically. And as you can see, the damage claims are way down for 2017. So this tells me that the trend is going down, and the things that we're doing with all of our funding mechanisms for maintenance are working and are sending us in the right direction.
That's a credit to your prioritization that you talked about when you started this program.
Yep. Okay, and that's it.
I have a question. Are you aware of the contractor exit plans after they've made the $25 million that they're going to make, and they've been in the business 20 years and clucking along at $10,000 a year, and they make $25 million? Now they're taking that vacation. There's got to be some money being made. These contractors, these small guys, are making millions.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I know we're. At this point, we've got our concrete contracts out for 2C. Our paving contracts will be going out by next week to renew for 2C. We'll be. I will tell you this: we are going to be coming forward here in the next couple months. We're really going to be trying to increase the paving that we're doing. So we're going to try to increase our PPRTA paving as well. Over the next couple of years. I don't know what the future holds. As far as I'm concerned, I've got 3 years 3 more years to try to really make as much of a dent as I can in this issue. So we're going to be reprioritizing some of those dollars. I don't want to touch crack seal and chip seal, but some of our programs we might be pushing some money over into paving so that we can pave more roads for the next couple of years, and then redistribute. We're taking a look at that right now, but that could be on the horizon.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I know in the first year you would struggle with Colorado Springs utilities. Have they been a more willing partner to you this year and going forward?
Yeah, very, very. They're a great partner. There's no doubt. It took us a little bit of time to figure out. They've got really bad infrastructure too, right? Every bit as bad as our roads. You just can't see it. And of course, Murphy's Law. Where my road's bad over here, their pipe is pretty good, and their pipe is bad over here, but my road is pretty good. And so trying to take their needs and our needs and try to do this with them, it has taken a little bit of time. We just had a coordination meeting today. We have one every 2 weeks with them. We've got a really good plan. We've made small adjustments from year 1 to year 2. We're going to make some more small adjustments from year 2 to year 3 moving forward. And at this point in time, we are already sitting at more available roads for our 2018 paving list than we were at this time last year. So in other words, we coordinated with Colorado Springs Utilities. They had a number of no-conflict streets where they didn't have an issue. We have already started 2018 concrete with our 2C concrete contractors. Those were the streets that we put on them immediately, so that coming into spring of next year, we're going to have a fairly robust list of streets that are already ready to go. One of the issues that we did come across last year was we always, as you know, try to get, even with PPRTA, our concrete contractors far enough out of ahead of our paving contractors because milling paving is a much faster operation. And so we try to get a buffer. Throwing CSU in the mix, they're even slower. Their process for replacement is even slower than concrete. So trying to get them in there, get them out of there, then get concrete in there, and get them out of there in time for the paving operation to come through was a little challenging. And then on top of that, we started running into, if they're going to be putting in laterals, we talked about, hey, and we've actually worked this out now to where we are out ahead of them through our coordination, but we started running into, hey, you just put new concrete in on this corner, but I got to put a hydrant in. And so I'm going to have to rip out that concrete. That's the last thing we want to do is do work twice. So we've got it coordinated now to where they have at least got their design done. All of their design is done early. We have their engineers go out and mark the roadway, mark the curb where they're actually going to be doing curb cuts across there. That way our concrete contractors can skip right over those areas and keep on working, and then they'll come in, they'll put their laterals in and be able to replace that concrete whenever they're there. That gets our concrete out of the way so that all we're doing is pushing CSU now. So the coordination process has increased exponentially, and like I said, at this point in time, my hope is that we don't have any hang-ups next year. There's always a latent condition or two, but we've really improved that process.
Have you had to adjust your comfort level with percent failure?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we when we came into this, and that was the unrealistic expectation. They were almost at 100% expectation of no failures, right? And we have had, I think, two now. One they had to do a repair on, and the other they just isolated the line. It was a redundant line, and they were able to isolate it. But we have had, we've put the scratch on the new car, right? And we have a really high percentage of success with that. But I don't think it's the unrealistic 100% expectation anymore. So, which is really good.
Okay. Any other questions for Corey? Listen, this is great, Corey. Great information, great stuff. Rick, I'm assuming either in the electronic submission that was sent out, this briefing was included, or if it's not, it will be made available?
Yeah. Yeah, you can email it out.
Yeah. I think that's a great story to tell of what we're doing, and so, yeah, thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Rick.
Let's see, you've already had 7F, yes? Okay,
Yes.
so now we're on the 8, ABCD.
Yes.
Report of recent board actions, memos in your file. I'll take any questions.
Just one,
Yeah, we did. It was the
Mr. Chair?
stuff that Mike did.
may I ask a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Since the executive session on the new PPACG director has not been held, is that next board meeting, next week, or when will that happen? Do we
okay.
know?
You probably saw in the paper, there are 4 finalist candidates for PPACG
Is that enough?
executive director. Yeah.
I know that was the problem.
To be interviewed in open session next Wednesday. The board meeting normally is at 9, but it's going to start at 8. Regular business for about 30 minutes, and then they'll start with the 4 interviews starting at about 8:30 next Wednesday in here. They will as I said, interview the 4 in open session. They will vote to pick one, their top candidate, in open session. Then they will go into closed executive session, which state law allows to develop a negotiating position, which would be the compensation package and moving allowance and all that stuff. And then they would direct the negotiator or negotiator team to be picked in the closed session to go make the offer.
So next week.
Yeah,
You see the smile on his face, right?
yeah.
All right. A little stressed?
It's been tough.
Yeah.
It's high volume, high pressure, high activity. 90 miles an hour every day, pedal to the.
Well, we thank you for all your well-done hard work. So
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, appointment, reappointment process for CAC.
The board's subcommittee, per board policy, is the board chair, board vice chair, and CAC chair, met, reviewed all the candidates, and there are several more candidates than openings for the at-large and at-large alternates. The subcommittee met, developed its slate of a recommendation to the board. That'll go in the board packet in the morning, and then the board will affirm that slate or not next Wednesday. In the afternoon, remember, the board meeting starts at 2 now instead of the 1:30 like they have been and like you do.
And I would like to take the opportunity at this time, Jake, I guess this is your last meeting? Yes. So as the chair and a member of the committee, I would like to thank you for your participation. It's been very beneficial. I think all of you, but you guys that have got this engineering and other type of background really provide some great input to this discussion sometimes. So I'd like to thank you on behalf of the committee for your service.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that Rick will have something later, or we will have something, we give something to them?
Yeah, at the, Jake, I gave you a note, if you can be there at 2 o'clock next Wednesday, the board will have a certificate of appreciation for you. If you can be there, if you can't, we understand, we can put it in the mail.
Actually, the town board of Bremen did not have another choice, so they reappointed me in October. I just haven't done a letter to you yet. That's my job as town clerk, is to write the letter who they appointed, so they did.
Thank you.
I'm not here as often, but sorry.
Yeah, and now there were some other folks that terms are expiring and/or there's some shuffling around. That is announced after the.
The hack has changed procedures. We used to appoint our own members. Now we give a list of potential nominees to the Board of County Commissioners that they choose. Ed is term limited on the hack, so he cannot serve as the hack representative.
And so what I was trying to say was those folks that are like Ed and others, if once announced at the board or approved at the board, some of the shuffling around may come back.
Right.
So.
The next item is 8C, just a reminder that at your January meeting, your bylaws state that you need to select your officers for the upcoming calendar year of 2018. So, and your 3 officer positions are chair versus vice chair and second vice chair. And so we'll probably do the secret ballot.
Secret ballot thing again.
Although I think they can be counted in public because there's each author's name is on it, so we can in the past, Bev and I have been counting it, but I think we can count them in public because.
We have to at a board meeting. It
Yeah.
cannot be secret.
Yep. So it will be a paper ballot, and I'll have several sets but the counting of them will be public. Your filling them out, of course, is private on the spot, but the counting will be in public.
All right, and then 8D.
Quarterly reports are for the third calendar quarter of 17 are in your packet. This is the list from which I do my field spot checking.
Patty, for your information, this packet of the quarter reports is a status provided by each of the members on all the projects that are funded with RTA. Rick goes around and visits all of them, sees them, confirms that they are what the municipality. But this is a great source document. If anyone has questions about a project, it's updated quarterly. And so this is a very useful, great product to have handy for a knowledge base.
I just want to do a kudos to El Paso County. The town of Rama approved a memorandum of understanding with El Paso, and they are going to chip seal our roads for us, our project. So we're going to pay for the materials, but El Paso County has been tremendous. It's just thank you, because we couldn't afford to do as much.
There you go, Jennifer.
Yes.
All right. I think that everything, any topics, agenda items for next meeting? Anybody want to bring something up? We need anything covered? Rick?
Kono Christmas party next Wednesday.
That would be item 10, but that was a good transition.
Oh.
Kono Christmas party next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday evening, 5 o'clock at the Kono office on South Cascade. No. Just bring your smile.
All right, any other communications from any of the other members? Rick?
I just wanted to, I think probably several of the CAC members understood some of the acronyms that Karen Rowe had, but maybe some of you didn't. She said TC, that's the CDOT Transportation Commission. She just zipped through TC, she says TC all the time. That's the Transportation Commission. She said EA, that's Environmental Assessment, and you engineers and others know that that's under the federal NEPA law. That's the lesser of the environmental process that anybody has to go through. That's the EA. The more involved, higher one, more expensive one, lots of consultants looking for arrowheads and mice and all sorts of things. That's EIS is Environmental Impact Statement.
Is it statement or study?
Statement.
I don't know. That's the Environmental Impact Study. Maybe it's study. I don't know. Statement? Statement. Okay, I got it right. Okay. And the FONSI, I think she might have said that, but went real quick. FONSI is Finding of No Significant Impact, and that's what you need to proceed to get past the environmental speed bump and start construction. It's great to have a FONSI.
Poison the mice before the study.
And the last thing is, with my other hat on, I've learned that about our internet access, our provider. I've just signed a contract with a different internet access provider who will design and improve our internet access starting in May. We have a contract with our current provider that we have to keep through the end of April, but in May, things should improve with our internet access.
All right. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Is this committee going to take Karen's offer up and have the consultant explain to us why toll roads are going to be so great?
Yeah, I was getting ready to address that, so thanks for asking that question. I didn't mean to. I did mean to cut discussion short on the GAP project, but we had other more pertinent things, in my opinion, on our agenda to cover. Not that that's not important, but the decision-making is out of our hands as a committee. We have no input into that, even though we've got $25 million worth of local money. I mean, 10 million of RTA, but 25 million, up to $25 million of local money. I think we should maybe, if they're going to collect tolls to pay for construction, we ought to get some of that back. But anyway, I would encourage everybody to go to those meetings. I've been to several of those public meetings, and there's a lot of information. There are information boards around the sides, and there's people there to answer questions and talk about. So that I would encourage you to do that. Back to your specific question. How many people would like to understand that process? I think that we all interact with people who are asking us those questions who don't know the boundaries, and it would be beneficial. So would it be okay to schedule a workshop? Do you want to do it in conjunction with a meeting or a separate date? Rick?
I'd suggest at the tail end of a meeting so the people that aren't interested could take off.
Or we could do it, if it's going to be an hour or two, we'll get a feel for how long that is. We maybe could schedule a separate session altogether just for that workshop. Or we can, I don't know how flexible the staff is in doing that. If we're locked into a date a month or two out, we might have to pick a month when we got a real short agenda so that we don't drag over. But we could also just schedule another. Yes, ma'am.
You know, I understand that we're not going to make the decision, but we have to face the public. So I think if we're better informed, we can pass the message along.
Wholeheartedly agree. Yep. Yep.
Mike, Rick, is that necessarily open public record? It's just a workshop.
Yeah, 3 or more assembled.
Well, wait a minute. We're not making a decision of any sort. We're just being informed.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's a discussion.
All right. In conjunction with Jim's thoughts, I don't think you heard it, but can we find out about how long that workshop might take? And in doing so, we might have to schedule a special meeting and then make what it means to you, the staff, and when this might be open, because we can't use this room Wednesday morning, for example, next Wednesday.
30 minutes plus or minus.
30 minutes plus or minus. Okay. Well, let's just schedule it. Can you maybe query their time frame and their schedules for coordinating that, and we'll just put it at the end of a short agenda month. Mike, you got a bunch of stuff coming up next month?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I would like to urge that it not be at the January 3rd meeting.
Yes, I agree, January. Let's shoot for February, maybe. Is that all right with everybody? Okay, let's give them plenty of heads up and planning, and let's shoot for February.
Is that February 6th?
I don't know. It's the first.
It's February 27th.
Yes, sir.
And then the last, so that's the thing. The last thing is, I may or may not be here for the February meeting. I've got shoulder surgery on the 23rd of January, so if I'm here, I'll be and I may be crying a lot, so don't laugh, okay? All right, any other questions? If not, adjourn. Thank you. Travel safe. Oh, I had mine last week.
Oh, the MRI.
I just wanted to mention.
23rd.
I have a torn rotator.
Yeah, and a bicep.
Ruptured bicep. Okay. And 2 tendons that aren't part of the rotator cuff. They're ripped loose. And 2
Right.